So this is part 2 of the value of feedback. Are you good at receiving feedback or giving feedback? So this is part 2. Tracey Ferrant from Smart Communication Craft. So as mentioned, just a quick review. Feedback is information about a product or service or a person or people in a given context. So feedback is very valuable because it helps us to sharpen our skills, to find growth and development, and to make corrections, especially when it's done right. We can receive positive or negative feedback. Feedback can be formal or informal, verbal or non-verbal, and feedback is always ongoing. We've been receiving feedback all our lives, and we will continue to receive feedback. And it's important that we take the right notes and take the right lessons from them, even if they're ill-intended. So we should use feedback as an opportunity. So let's continue part 2. So now I'm going to be looking at continuing from feedback. I was speaking about the receiver, and just want to mention that even if the feedback is unwarranted, you can take the lesson from it. So if the feedback is misguided, so maybe the person is well intended but the feedback is misguided, or it could be ill intended and misguided. So you don't have to receive it, just listen and then maybe thank them or be silent and move on, but find a smart way to handle it. So someone can be misguided but not ill-intended. Feedback can also be on point but ill-intended. It's weaponized, so it's used to kind of cut you down. It is a cut you down to size, and kind of get you to doubt yourself and to try to cut down your self-esteem and your focus on your value and your confidence in doing a particular thing. So, or in looking a particular way, depending on what it is. So if it's on point, take the lesson. So take the sting out of it. It was meant for bad, but you turn it around for good. You have that power. We have that power. So you take the sting out of it by learning the lesson, and you don't have to. You understand who this person is, and you understand their intentions, or you understand that the person is a little misguided. So it's okay. You divorce yourself from that and take the value and leave the rest, right? I remember someone saying when you buy something at a supermarket, like a can or something that comes in a package, you want what's in the package and you throw away the rest. So you take the value from the item and throw away the rest. So you take the value from the feedback and throw away the rest, whether it is a bad intention, right? Or having knowledge about how the person views you. So take the value from it, even if it's ill-intended. Once is valid, it's okay. A lesson learned, we're climbing. It's not the end of the world. All right, so feedback is for the future, not for the past. Just remember that. All right, so let's also look at if we're the giver of the feedback. So even there's unsolicited and there's solicited feedback. People asked you or didn't ask you for feedback. Some of us, maybe we're good at cooking, and so we feel that we should give people, maybe you just want to help. You're not criticizing, but you think that you should help. All right, or you're an English person or French or Spanish, and you speak very well, so you think that you should be assisting people, or maybe you're in a particular profession and so you're providing advice on different areas. You don't have to, unless it's your job. And some people, they don't like unsolicited advice, unsolicited feedback. So be mindful of those little nuances. Sometimes just that's the way we learned some things on our own through observation and experience and mistakes and so on. We have to let people learn as well. All right, so we're not responsible for everybody. So, but when we're giving feedback, be mindful, discern the person you're giving the feedback to. Is this person rational or irrational? Is the person defensive? Are they agreeable or disagreeable? So you're going to think about it finding, is there value in giving this person feedback? Because sometimes you can try to do a good thing and then they end up biting you, you know, not by mistake, not by mistake, but deliberately, you know. So we have to be mindful and to discern so we don't put ourselves in situations trying to be the savior of everybody. But once you're giving constructive feedback to those, dear to us, near to us, and even in a work situation, maybe you're a supervisor or somebody, or you're a colleague that's knowledgeable about IT and so on, and you're giving feedback, discern the person. Because if it's somebody who is rational, they're looking for the facts and saying, oh, and they are more self-aware, so they're taking the value and they will appreciate it. If it is somebody who is defensive and irrational, doesn't matter what you're saying, they will argue and argue and argue, or they will take the feedback and pretend as if you didn't help them. So just be mindful of those little things. Because the proverb says, don't bother correcting mockers, they will hate you. But correct the wise and they will love you. So discern the person who you want to give the feedback to. Lead with context. So set the tone from the beginning. So especially in a personal situation, the person is valuable to you. Choose a time, choose a place, set the tone from the beginning, and before giving them the feedback. Avoid absolutes, like you always and you are this type of person. So behaviors change, attitudes can change. So try not to fixate people into a definition of you are this and you always do this. So for example, let's say you live with a spouse or you have some two teenagers, and they every year or for a full year they usually clean up the kitchen, but for the past 2 days they left cups in the kitchen. No, that's just 2 days. You can't say you always leave things in the kitchen. No. And that's why sometimes people push back, because we're going in too strong based on our emotions and not based on what exactly is happening and focusing on a better outcome. Or we say, you are nasty. And you're not looking at the fact, no, the person not is nasty. They've left some cups. It's a behavior, it's a habit that needs to be retrained. And it gets a little deeper, but those are the two examples I could think of right away. So be careful of absolutes, or unless that is the case, where every day they do the same thing. But if it's an occasional thing, you can say, for example, I notice, the kitchen has always been kept clean, but for the past 2-3 days, you've been leaving things. Is things okay? Are you busy? Or do you, I would prefer if you washed up before you went to bed. You find a way. So try to avoid absolutes, because people will push back, or telling them what they are and what they are not based on their behavior. Because we don't like that either. So be mindful of those things. Be relaxed and composed. So in some situations, you may need to be a bit more assertive, depending on the person we're dealing with. Some people, they're focusing on the feedback and they have ownership of themselves. So when we give them the feedback, it doesn't matter if you're relaxed, they appreciate that. But for other person, you have to show some sense of communicative authority for them to take you seriously. So watch that and discern the person and our people and the group and the situation. Be specific. So have the facts, and so don't give feedback according to your emotions. I feel that, or I heard that, this person said this. No, give it based on the facts. The facts of the situation. So for example, let me give a workplace situation. Maybe somebody has a huddle before work, it's 10 minutes, but they've not been attending. So you call them and you say, I notice you haven't been participating. The team members are disappointed that you're not participating and are wondering why. The huddle is a good thing to build relationships, especially since you're new. They maybe have icebreakers sometimes. It's a good way to get to know people. Sometimes set the agenda for the day in terms of what's being done, or they talk about mistakes and new things that are happening. So I want you to participate in the huddle. So that's based on facts. Now, if you're going to be basing things on gossip, that's different. For example, oh, Shireen says she doesn't like you, or Shireen says you have an attitude, or you're not smiling enough, but there's nothing behind it. This is just Shireen's idea of the person. It's not a matter of you turned up the report late, or you're showing up to work late, or you're not participating in team meetings. No, it's just a matter of personality. So it can't be based on how we feel, what we feel. It has to be factual. So be mindful of overextending our emotions, and yes, because we want to control situations and people. Make sure that we have the freedom to speak specifically about what's happening. All right, and monitor the behavior. So I'm going to continue part 3 with monitor the behavior. Tracey Ferrant from Smart Communication Craft.